Hi friends, this is Caly. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am sharing 2 cards using Concord 9th products. Now before we begin, I just want to apologize for my voice. It seems like I've been under the weather a lot recently. I don't know what it is, but it's all these minor viruses that are not COVID. So I just wanted to let you know so you can bear with me. So on this first card here, I am using the Thinking of You set. I just wanted to share here that I'm using a sticky mat. I've die cut this floral frame using white cardstock, and I've just placed it on that sticky mat that I keep behind my foam mat in my MISTI, and that'll help me keep that frame in place while I stamp the image. To position, I am just eyeballing it. I make sure to look all around the sides and bottom just to make sure that the border around the stamp is even before I stamp. It isn't always perfect, but it'll do. And then you'll see there that once I'm done with that sticky mat, I just place the acetate back over the top of the sticky portion and then just stick it in the back of my MISTI. And that way it's always ready to go whenever I need it again. I like using it for dies that I have to die cut first before stamping. It's super handy. Okay, so now we're going to do some quick coloring using Copic markers. I'm doing very quick blending. I know on these larger flowers I'll be using 4 different markers, but you really don't need that many. You just need to work harder if you just have a few colors. And then on the greens, I am using 3 different groupings of greens just to give the frame a little bit more interest. I have a full list of the color combinations listed on the blog post with this video, so be sure to check that out. I wanted my frame to be really interesting, so I'm using some metallic Confections craft cardstock from Tim Holtz Ideology pack. I wanted a basic gold color, so that's the one that I chose to die cut a second frame from. And what I'm doing now to create more interest for my frame is snipping off the original frames from the colored piece that I did earlier. Now, feel free to skip this portion. You can always color your frame using any Copic marker or medium that you'd like. I just decided that a gold frame would be more interesting on my card. So what I've done here is attach the floral portion just over the floral portion on the metallic, and then that reveals the metal frame only. This die set also comes with a large Thinking of You sentiment die, so I've die cut that in white and the same metallic cardstock as well. I'm going to go ahead and set the sentiment aside because I really want to add color behind my flowers first. So I've got a folded note card here, and I'm just going to use some Oceanside Concord 9th ink, and I'm just going to ink blend around the right upper hand corner and the left lower hand corner. I'm just going to rotate that card panel just to make it a little bit easier to ink blend that corner. And once that's done, we'll go ahead and attach our frame. At this point, when I was cutting these tiny strips, I was like, why did I make this so hard on myself? I really could have die cut and adhered that whole metallic frame onto a card base and then just propped up the flowers. Lesson learned. I usually don't make a prototype before I start filming, so what you see is what you get. This is my process, and I share with you how you can make it a little bit easier when you're making your card if you decide to make something very similar. So now I've got my sentiments, I've got this white panel and the metallic panel, and at first I wanted to offset it a little bit just to show some color underneath, and then I decided to do something crazy. I chopped off the letters in the lower portion of the metallic sections, and then I'm gluing it back on top of the white panel just to give it a little bit more interest. I know sometimes when there are sentiments, you can always emboss the lower half of the letters, but because all of these letters are stuck together, I wanted that same look, but the only way to do that was to make it hard on myself by chopping it off and then making sure that the letters were all separated before gluing it back on. I hope you like the look. I'm happy with it, but you definitely don't need to make it that complicated for yourself. And then to finish this card, I added lots of foam behind this Thinking of You sentiment and then attached it to my card. Again, if you don't want to use lots of thin strips of foam tape, you can always die cut several of these sentiments and then stack them up. Okay, so that finishes my first card. My second card uses the Eclectic garden dies. I love hummingbirds, so I just had to have this set. And to start off, I'm going to die cut this large main flower in white because I felt this was the easiest way to add color and dimension to the flowers without all of it being the same cardstock. You could also die cut this out of green cardstock, but I just didn't want that base layer underneath my flowers to be green. And that absolutely is just a personal preference for me. If that doesn't bother you at all, feel free to die cut this in brown or any other color that you like. Concord 9th actually makes lots of beautiful but very simple cards, and they actually have a sample on their website that uses craft cardstock, and it looked beautiful. All right, so now we have these flowers. There is a separate die for the flowers, so you don't have to worry about doing any snipping. I die cut that in honeysuckle cardstock, and I'm just gonna lay that right over those white flowers. And now you don't see it very clearly here, but I'm actually inlaying little yellow centers. I die cut it a second time with yellow cardstock. Now to shape the very top layer, I wanted to add lots of dimension, so I'm using this Tim Holtz shaping kit. It comes with a foam pad and some shaping tools that have round balls at the end. And I'm using this ball end here that is kind of the same size as the petals. I've die cut those flowers a second time using sorbet cardstock, and I am just running the ball portion of my shaping tool over each of those panels, and that will create a nice curve to each of these petals and give lots of dimension to the flowers once I attach them on top of the previous flowers that I attached. The idea behind using two different shades of cardstock was to give the flower a little bit more shading and dimension. But you can always use the same colored cardstock if you'd like for the flower layers. I just thought the darker behind it would give it a little bit more shadow and a little bit more depth. Now, as I was shaping those petals, I intentionally left the center a little bit more flat to make sure that I had space to adhere to that original or darker layer of flowers on the stems. So now look, we have this beautiful dimension on our flower stems, and it just looks gorgeous. We're gonna go ahead and set that aside, and I'll be putting together these hummingbirds. Super easy to make. I just die cut it in several different colors of cardstock from Concord 9th that I thought would look beautiful for these hummingbirds. And I kept it simple. I didn't do any ink blending because these birds are a little bit small and it would be more difficult to add some shading. I've got another note card here that I'm going to add color to, and you'll see it does create a bit of a mess at the center, but we're going to cover that right up. And that's the problem with not ink blending off the page first. And I rarely do this, but I only do it if I know I can cover it up because it doesn't always look as great. So I adhered those wildflowers right over the center of the ink blending there, and then I'm just going to attach my hummingbirds using foam adhesive because those flowers are dimensional, so we want to put the hummingbirds up to where it matches the height or a little bit higher. We have this little banner die from the die set, and I've stamped a sentiment that is actually from the Thinking of You set, and then just laid that right in the middle at the bottom there. And that finishes my 2 spring cards today using Concord 9th products. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you like seeing how that shaping tool works and how convenient it is to add dimension to your flowers. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and here are 2 more videos you can enjoy if you're interested in seeing more. Thanks so much for stopping by, and have a great day, everyone. Bye!